The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Well, as y'all know, throughout the month, we have been celebrating our winners for Celebrate Business. And Dr. Bonner, we're so happy to have you on our podcast today. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So Dr. Bonner was actually our Advocate for Opportunity Award winner this past November and it's a brand new award that we decided that we really needed to showcase and to acknowledge people in our community that are giving others opportunities that necessarily haven't had an opportunity themselves. And so you have done so much for our community and you continue to leave just an indelible mark. And so congratulations on being our Advocate for Opportunity.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Except I'm going to beat you up for not
No,
letting me know.
I'm just glad you showed up. You know, that's always our biggest fear.
Getting people there.
What if the person doesn't show up?
Right.
I mean, it's like when they walk in, you're like, whew, okay, this can happen now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So why don't you tell just our listeners a little bit about yourself, your background history, and then we'll kind of talk about all that you do for our community.
Well, thank you so much. Very few people know a lot about my background history because I did not grow up in Lufkin,
Right.
although I came to Lufkin regularly. I had an uncle that worked at Lufkin Foundry,
Okay.
Lufkin Industries,
Awesome.
and he was Mine Enterprise, and he drove every day back and
wow.
forth from Mine Enterprise to
Wow.
Lufkin to work there. And so I would hang on with my aunt and come down and sit in the car and wait for him to get off work. And so that was my introduction to Lufkin. And then later on, when I graduated from high school in Fairfield, Texas, my mom came to Lufkin to teach.
Okay.
For 17 years, she taught here in the Lufkin school system. I'm sure she taught you, Tara.
I'm sure she did. I was just thinking that. I'm sure she did.
At Dunbar.
And what was your mama's name?
Emma Bonner. She was a fifth grade.
You got to be kidding.
Yes, that was my
I've
mother.
never put all that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I tell
yeah.
everybody I was Miss Emma's baby girl. But my background, I have cousins that live in a little community called Plum Creek, Texas.
Okay.
And we talk about that. That was my father's family, but they were the ones that gave me my quest and zeal for education,
Okay.
and also for moving forward and not standing still. Both of my grandparents, my father's parents, were college educated in the 1920s.
Wow.
Wow.
And so I tell people all the time, I didn't know any better. I thought
Yeah,
I was supposed to go to
That's all
school.
you knew.
That's
Yeah.
all I knew was to go to school.
Yeah.
So from Fairfield, I went to Dillard University in New Orleans.
Okay.
From Dillard, I went to Clark University in Portland, Oregon. And from there, I went to University of Houston, the Central Campus.
All over.
And I've been all over the place. And then I went to law school.
Okay.
My children told me, Mom, we're going to pick you up out of a classroom on the way to the cemetery. So, I mean, learning is just so important and to encourage others to learn. Mostly people think of young people, but you can learn. I was just reading an article one day last week that said you can learn at any age.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe very, very strongly in that.
Sure.
And also, I believe in meeting and getting to know people who are not just like me, because I can't learn from me.
That's right.
I can learn from others,
That's true.
and that's pretty much who I am.
That's great.
What a background. I love that. How did you end up back in Lufkin? How
I
did that
came
happen?
home to take care of my mother.
Okay.
I had all intentions of laying on her couch and watching Law and Order every day. That did not work.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that one at all.
That was my intention, but it didn't work.
Now, did you practice law?
I practice somewhat now.
Okay.
I say somewhat because I practice what I want to practice.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to do it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I am truly an advocate for those who are in the Social Security
Okay.
Administration. But the reason, it's a long story why I went to law school, but actually I'm a mediator.
I
Okay.
didn't know that. Okay.
See, I told you.
Yeah.
That's why we do this show. We love finding that stuff out.
I worked for a labor union
Okay.
when I was in Massachusetts, and I filed a lawsuit against my labor union. And we went to talk about the lawsuit and to settle everything. And they told me, well, you go sit over there, and we're going to go in here and figure this out. Well, I did, and they put me in the room with a guy that was a mediator, and that's how I learned out what a mediator was.
Oh.
Oh my Lord. I bet you talked his
wanna
head off.
That. I did.
Uh-huh.
We had about 4 hours here, and I had the best time. So I said, well, I can do that until I'm too old to get up out of the bed. He said, yes, you can. As long as you can write, you can do a mediation. I went, oh, okay. And that's what I did.
And there you do.
I went to
That's
law school,
fantastic.
and you don't have to be a lawyer to be a mediator, but it helps
does
to
help.
have those
Mhm.
Oh,
credentials.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so I do that for the post office.
Sure. Okay. Well, I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about. So I know your passion is restoration
Yes.
and making sure that history is preserved so
Yes.
that other generations can learn about it.
Yes.
And you started an organization called Sarah's Hope Foundation.
Yes.
Tell us about that organization.
That's a very long story, and I know you don't have time for it, but Sarah's Hope is the development of my 2 children and I. Became a single parent when my daughter was 1, and I used to tell them, you see this Foot Locker? This is Sarah's Hope. We had no money. All we had were desires and books, and everywhere we went, we took that Foot Locker.
Mm-hmm.
It was Sarah's Hope. And so finally, when I moved to Lufkin, I had an opportunity to develop Sarah's Hope. And Betty Kennedy is the one that drugged me into doing all of that.
Mhm.
We started because one of the things I'm committed to really is that Lufkin is a big football town. I mean, it is, colleges are not as awesome about it as Lufkin is, but there are children who can't play football.
Mhm.
Girls don't play football. And so they
You're
need
right.
something to give them character building and training. And so I told Betty, I said, Betty, let's start us a children's choir. And she went, okay.
I can see her saying that.
Okay. And so that's how we started. And we had children that came in and we focused on children that people call disadvantaged.
Okay.
But I don't call them disadvantaged. I just call them financially challenged.
Mhm.
Because if they weren't financially challenged, they wouldn't be where they are today.
Right.
But we had wonderful children. They came from Pinewood Park. They came from over by Long Chapel. They came from some of them were from even from south part of the city, and just some of the kids that I think about them today. And my favorite thing was from a young lady who lived in Pinewood Park, and we were talking about one day, she says, we were talking about dreams. What is it you want to do? And so one of the young men who had some challenges, he said, I don't dream. I don't have dreams. And she looked at him and she said, if you don't have dreams, you have nightmares.
I love that.
From children.
Oh, I love that.
From children. And so we started off with the choir. We took them different places. We took them to Washington, D.C. We took them to Houston to visit all the colleges. And from that, Betty said, well, my father's place, I don't know what we're going to do with it. I said, well, show it to me. She said, no, I don't want to show it to you. I want you to own it. I went, I don't have any money to do all of that.
Yeah.
She said, if you put your faith in God, it will come. And it did come. And Betty and I should have said this the other night, one August day, hot Texas August day, we set up in the upstairs of that building. No ventilation, no wind circulating at all. And SFA, Stephen F. Austin, came, and Betty was sitting up there with me, and I'm going, Reverend Betty, it's kind of hot because, she was older. I said, don't you want to, I'll get all this. I'm going to sit right here. And what we did was she sat there as they went through all the artifacts that were left in that building, and now they're stored at SFA.
Oh, wow.
And she was just happy that we were able to save her building, and that's her building. And so that's what we work on. It's for the community. It was used by the community. We have pictures of it when it was used by the community. There were charters, the documents showing the charters of 4 or 5 organizations that I didn't even know ever existed in Lufkin. And so SFA has them because I knew I didn't know how to keep them, and paper tears, after a while. So that's what we're doing. We want to bring that building back to use, to make it breathe again.
So where is the building?
228 Leach Street,
Okay.
directly across the street from Garrett Elementary School. And that's the other thing. The Texas Historic Commission has curriculum to help young people, children, understand history. And so we want to incorporate that history from that building and that area. There's a church next door to the building that was also designed and built by Betty's father. And so Woods Memorial Church. And so we want those kids at Garrett and anywhere, all over the city, but they're right there to understand the pride that they can have in what they have in their community and the people who built it.
Sure.
I love that. So where is the mission now? So is it trying to get this as a historical location?
It's in the begging mode.
In the begging mode. I love that.
But no, we really have been blessed in terms of we've gotten a little here, a little there. We've applied for some funds, and we're hoping that will come through by the summer. I am blessed to have a son-in-law who is talented in doing certain types of construction. He and one of his buddies came from Boston.
Oh, great.
And spent 2 weeks replacing the whole back wall of that building.
Wow.
Because it was dilapidated, it was rotten out, and people were coming in sleeping when they, of course, they weren't paying rent, so they were just hanging out in the building. And we've gotten it where now it is stabilized.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that's where we are, and we're hoping that. I've been told, don't worry, just be patient. I said, I've been patient 13 years. Be patient, it's coming. And so what we want to do by the summer is really get in there. The issue, too, is not an issue, but we have to be very careful because it is a historic building.
How old is it?
Built in 1901.
1901, okay.
Yes, and it has withstood many a hurricane.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So once it is restored, then what do you want to do with it?
Well, it's a 2-story building.
Right.
The downstairs part will be open for community use, meeting rooms, seniors. I've talked to the senior citizens program at DECCOG. They're waiting to have something on the north side of town where seniors can come and hold meetings and events. And if we can get it approved and appropriate, I've also talked to Dr. Simon about maybe bringing 1 or 2 classes from the college there and having that downstairs used for those kinds of things. Upstairs, we're making it into a library and the collection of artifacts. My children told me, don't go up and down the road going through trash. So, but I already have, people have given me, I have, there are 2 annuals that were made for Dunbar School. I have both of those that people have donated. I have some books that have come when they have the Friends of the Library sale. I have those. And then I have things like, I have a scale that was used to weigh the cotton sacks. Oh, wow. With the I didn't know what it was called, but it's called a P. That's the heavy piece that weighs and tell you how much yes. And that I have churns, I have pedal sewing machines, I have all of that we're collecting. Yeah. And I want it to be done so I can reclaim my garage.
Exactly.
So, but the upstairs is, and I have obituaries. I mean, people throw away those programs at funerals. I collect them because they can be legal documents, and two, they are there for reference for people to come back and do research. So that's what the upstairs is for.
Okay.
I love that. Why? Tell us your view and your philosophy on preserving history. Why do you feel it's important for us?
Well, I guess I grew up with a bunch of old people, and I like the stories. I mean, I didn't realize it was called historic preservation, but I like the stories that they told. I like to know what happened, because then you can build on it. Do not live in the past, but know the past so that you can grow and with a good understanding. Excuse me. One of the things that I grew up with, and I was just a part of our family discussion. I had my grandmother's aunt that raised her in 1869, would teach African Americans who were just newly out of slavery or sharecroppers or whatever. She was their teacher under a tree down in Plum Creek, Texas. And in 1901, she went to Austin to take a test so that she could get a certification. I don't know what they did, but that's what and we have that certification today. And that tells me that if she could do that under those circumstances, I can too.
That's awesome.
And that's how I look at history. And again, I was not raised to feel that I was better than anyone. I was raised to say that you have skills to serve your community. And that's just, I enjoy it, and I really think that's important.
I love that. I knew you would have an interesting perspective on that, so I wanted to ask.
I think it's so important that we try not to erase history.
No, ma'am.
You know, we've got to learn from the mistakes that we've made, so that we
but
can...
also the benefits, not just
absolutely,
mistakes, the good
both
things.
the good and the bad.
Yes.
But you know, so many people today want to get rid of the bad things.
Yes.
Well, if we get rid of them, we're gonna repeat them.
Yes, right. That's right.
And so, you know, I think it's great that you're trying to teach other generations about history and about the history of this area. And how we can build on that foundation that was laid for us
we have some good people, black, white, purple, green, whatever.
That's right.
That contributed to making us who we are.
Yeah.
The bad taught us not to do it again.
That's right.
The good taught us to build on it.
That's right.
And so I believe very strongly in that.
Well, we appreciate you, Dr. Bonner, for all that you're doing for our community, and we're so honored to have you as our advocate for opportunity. So congratulations once again.
Thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your heart and these stories. It's been awesome to learn from you and hear those. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. Truly appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week.